Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back! Oh wait, I'm supposed to do the intro this time, aren't I? Hello YouTube, my name is Nero. Today we're back here on the Call of Duty 4 pre-alpha multiplayer. I'm super excited to be able to make this video today because I have in my possession 4 different early builds of Call of Duty 4, and I was able to find a lot of really cool stuff that I want to share with you guys. A lot of you really seem to enjoy my World at War beta video, but because the game was in beta, there really weren't a lot of changes that were made between that build and the build that of course we all know today. Well, here with the Call of Duty 4 pre-alpha, there are lots of changes, like so many changes that at times the maps feel and play completely differently than what we would eventually see with the full release of Call of Duty 4 as was Modern Warfare Remastered. We also have a handful of cut multiplayer maps to take a look at, but before we get too far into the video, I would like to give a big shout out to a subscriber named Riley. Riley is the guy who originally had access to all of these Call of Duty builds. He's the guy who would record gameplay and send me footage for my videos, and he's also the guy who sold me a modded Xbox 360 with all these builds on it, so I could actually experience all this content for myself. He's been super helpful answering all my questions. He's made tons of tutorial videos that he sent to me privately, so I actually know how to access all this stuff and actually use the mod console. So Riley, if you catch this video, thank you so much for all the work that you do. You've made a lot of people happy by allowing them to actually see all this content. There are so many Call of Duty fans out there who love to see this kind of stuff, and without the community of gamers that are out there that preserve and document all these early builds, most of this stuff would have been lost to time. That's why I really hope in the future more people come forward if they have access to dev kits or early builds or anything like that, because there is still so much that we have yet to see throughout the very long history of the Call of Duty franchise. According to Riley, there are actually some people out there who have early builds of the Modern Warfare 2 multiplayer, but for some reason they aren't interested in sharing footage with the public. Like, these people have access to these old Infinity Ward dev kits, and they won't sell their dev kits to anybody, they won't record footage and send that footage to anybody, and the same is true for all the other Call of Duty games out there, like World at War, for example. And I have to wonder, why are these people intentionally trying to hide all this stuff from the public? Like, on one hand, I understand that they probably paid a lot of money for their dev kits. What they have is actually super rare. Maybe they like having access to this stuff that other people can't have, but it's 2018. If they paid a lot of money for their Modern Warfare 2 dev kit, they would make twice as much back selling footage to YouTubers like myself, because everybody wants to have access to this stuff, right? Everybody wants to see what Modern Warfare 2 looked like in its early stages of development, or Black Ops 2 in its early stages of development, or any of the Call of Duty games out there, right? I really feel as though they're missing out on a giant opportunity here, and how cool would it be to just see the early builds of Modern Warfare 2? According to the cutting room floor, there were lots of cut multiplayer maps, lots of cut kill streaks, including a tank and the advanced UAV, and there were countless cut game modes, some of which we've actually seen on YouTube, like for example, Global Thermal Nuclear War. The original Black Ops also had a ton of cut maps. Black Ops 2 had a ton of cut weapons, and we even have some images of early map builds of Black Ops 2 that can be found in the game files. So, for example, this is what Plaza was initially going to look like in Black Ops 2, and this is what Standoff was initially going to look like, at least early on in development. How cool would it be to see early builds of Black Ops 2, or Modern Warfare 2, or Modern Warfare 3, or any of these Call of Duty games? There is still so much out there that we haven't seen yet, though unfortunately it seems like as the years go on, it gets harder and harder for fans to get their hands on these dev kits and these early builds. You would think that older games like Call of Duty 2 and Call of Duty 4 would be the hardest games to get access to, but in fact, they're actually the easiest. Like, if you're trying to get into this scene and you're trying to buy like a modded console or a dev kit or what have you, it's much easier to find the Call of Duty 2 dev kits or the Call of Duty 3 dev kits or the Call of Duty 4 dev kits as compared to the newer games like Black Ops 2 or Modern Warfare 3 or Ghosts or something like that, right? I also think it comes down to the fact that there are probably a lot more rules in place now as compared to way back then. Like, I feel as though at this day and age, there are far fewer magic consoles floating around that just have access to all these early builds and cut maps and cut features, but either way, I do remain hopeful that someday we will be able to see early builds from all of our favorite Call of Duty games, not just the super early ones. I mean, heck, 10 years after World at War came out, a former Treyarch employee released the full Pack-a-Punch song with no editing whatsoever, which, by the way, up until that point, had never been heard before. The song was 9 years old, but we never heard the full thing in its entirety until one day this former employee is like, you know what, I'm going to release it to the public on Twitter. Here you go. Which, by the way, if you guys want to hear it, there's a link to it down there in the description, and that keeps me hopeful that things like that could happen again going forward. I also remember back during Call of Duty XP 2011 when Treyarch decided to share with us a bunch of cut features from the original Black Ops, including the ban, the suicide animation, as well as the cut multiplayer map War Museum, which was going to be a remake of Castle from World at War, but it was also going to be like this homage to the entire Black Ops universe by showcasing a bunch of conflicts and locations and characters in the museum itself. That would have been really freaking cool, and I would love for Treyarch to do more things like that going forward, though it really does come down to how they would handle it, right? Because if they were to come out tomorrow and say, hey guys, we know Black Ops 4 is right around the corner, but here's all the content you're not going to be getting with the game, then I think people would react pretty negatively to that. But if they were to come out and make a series of videos or a live stream where they show us a bunch of cut content from their previous games and explain why it was cut, I think that would be super interesting. Like, for example, we do know for a fact that in the World at War game files, there was a game mode called Vehicle Team Deathmatch, which was basically going to be this mode where you could only use tanks, but keep in mind, there were many more tanks initially within World at War than what we saw in the full game. In the full game, we find 2 different kinds of tanks, which basically did the same thing, but in the game files, there were like 10 different kinds of tanks, and they all would have been part of this game mode. How interesting would that have been? I would love to see some concept footage of Vehicle Team Deathmatch. I would love to hear Treyarch talk about the game mode and explain why they thought it was a good idea in the first place, and explain why it was ultimately cut from the game. There is so much they could possibly do with this, and if Infinity Ward wanted to get involved, they could talk about the cut game modes from Modern Warfare 2, or the cut perks from Modern Warfare 3. I think it would be super interesting if the developers were to open up this kind of dialogue with the community, though honestly, I think this is more wishful thinking than anything. I feel as though if they really wanted to do this, they probably would have done it by now, but still, it's a really cool idea in my opinion. I hope the developers do more stuff like that going forward. It's been a very long time since they've done anything like this, but regardless of what happens, I'm just happy that I'm able to share this footage with you guys. I'm super happy that because of Riley, I have these early builds of Call of Duty 4, I can explore these multiplayer maps, I can get really cool footage like this and share it with you guys. It's a really cool thing. Like, COD 4 is one of my favorite games of all time. It was super influential on me as a person, and if I didn't get sucked into Call of Duty 4 and World at War like I did back in the day, then I wouldn't be here now. I wouldn't have a YouTube channel. I wouldn't be Nero. Who knows how my life would have turned out differently if I never got sucked into these games, right? So they've had a big impact on me as a person. I love both of those games so much, and having these early builds of them where I can explore them from a different perspective, that is definitely a lot of fun, and I want to share that fun with you guys here in these videos. So I hope you guys all enjoyed it. That's all I had for you guys here today. If you did enjoy the video, please drop me a rating, and if you guys could, let me know down there in the comments, if you could pick one Call of Duty game to see early builds of, what game would that be? Leave your thoughts and feedback down there in the comment section below. Thank you all so much for listening, and I hope you guys all have a wonderful day.